Hello, Internet. It's Gino, the Guino Grieco, here again with another episode of Deep Listens. Today we are talking about Overwatch. So, spoilers, don't really need to worry about them today, thank goodness. I am joined, as always, by Peter Free the Omnic Busby.
I don't see why we always have to make robots the bad guys, you know? What makes human life so valuable? Not a damn thing. We're squishy, we leak. Who wants that?
And we are also joined by John the fill-in Krisch.
Hello.
Hello. So John is here because Billy has an addictive personality when it comes to certain types of games.
What?
And believe it or not, if you've been listening to the podcast, you might not know. And so it was probably for the best that he not play this, and his schedule was pretty tight this week, so he couldn't really play enough Overwatch to really be an authority on it. So we filled in. John, thank you for joining us.
Yep.
So, starting out with also, if you want to get in touch with the show, go ahead at deeplistenspod, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, or deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have comment sections. So now we can talk about Overwatch. Why don't we start with the story? Just because
Just get
it out of the way.
Yeah.
There seemed to have been some kind of task force called the Overwatch, who overwatches the Overwatchers.
Yep.
Then there were robots. There seemed to have been a war between people and robots because robots got too smart.
Yep.
And now everyone's fighting because the Overwatch got disbanded, and now they're fighting over what seem to be trucks and random locations.
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. Sure.
There's a cavalcade of characters from all across the globe, and some of them are robots also. They represent a variety of cultures and ethnicity and genders and ethnicities, all sorts of stuff. But mostly they shoot each other and pose.
Or like tag things too sometimes.
Yep, sometimes they spray paint things. I feel like Lucio should be the only person who has spray paint. He feels like Jet Grind Radio.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, he's straight out of that game.
Almost exactly.
Yeah.
So now, what did you guys think of the story stuff? Did it do anything for you?
I mean, it's all window dressing, really. I mean, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I'm personally glad Blizzard did not make a big story. They have not made a great story in, forever. Their stories are usually pretty bad.
Yeah, they tend to be pretty boilerplate and inoffensive.
Yeah.
With a lot of CGI.
Yep.
The only part of the story of this game that I really appreciated was the pre-match quips that kind of give you a little bit of say, a little bit of an idea of who these characters were in relation to one another. But outside of those brief moments where I think Farah talks to Soldier 76, if those two characters are on the same team, he's like, your mother would have been proud of you. Well, you didn't know my mother very well then, did you? It's like, oh, you guys have a history.
Look at that. That's a tidbit I can file away.
Yep. And now her mom's in the game. We're recording this after Ana was released, so
yep.
I think they talk to each other. All sorts of stuff. Bastion just kind of beeps and boops. I don't really know.
And then birds come in.
Yep.
I guess I would say, even though the story is not important, what is there, it is important that it is there. If it wasn't there and this was just I don't know, we're hopping on Quake Live and everyone just pops in, you kind of lose something. Yeah, those quips do add something, and they add flavor that if that was gone, I don't know. Even though the story is not big, being there is important.
Yeah, I guess it creates a question of whether or not you could have fully realized characters independent of an environment. Because, I mean, these are pretty solid, pretty diverse set of characters. And I guess it's a question of whether or not you need a world in which to put these characters, or if they could just exist in a vacuum.
I guess the answer to that question would be Team Fortress, kind of, because those games, each character is just the character class, the medic, the spy, the soldier, and you can have X number of them, however many your team wants, but they have some personality just engendered into them, in their taunts and their weapon choices and some of their animations. And so there are people who definitely get kind of something out of the different characters, like the heavy. I know people have made a whole bunch of YouTube videos and stuff in Gary's mod by moving around those characters and making them do ridiculous things. But in the game, it's even more abstracted than in Overwatch. Like, you're just kind of doing a thing, and then the winning team wins.
Right.
I've never played Team Fortress, but I imagine the characterization boils down mostly to sort of what their abilities are. Like, the spy has certain character traits in virtue of being a spy, as opposed to who he is as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing about TF2 is that there are so many less characters. It's like 9 instead of 23,
now, I think.
23, so they don't have to be like separated that much, like as much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that game is, since there is no real window dressing in terms of story, you don't need a context for all these people. Whereas when you have all these distinct individual characters, I think Dota is another, and League of Legends are another examples of, even though there's 100+ characters, for some reason, someone is writing the fiction for each and every single one of them for what they're doing here and why they have the powers they have. And it allows the people who want to get deep into that fiction to do so, even though 90% of the people probably will never touch that stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
if you don't get deep into it, you'll have a favorite character, and you'll know that character's backstory. It just happens when you play these games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to be there.
Diva is raising her APMs.
Yep. Pro StarCraft player. Actually in lore.
Ugh.
So, now that we've gotten the story stuff out of the way, I guess first place to start would be, what characters did you guys end up gravitating towards, like when you were playing?
So when I first picked it up, I just started with Soldier 76 because he's by the lowest barrier of entry. And then as I went further, I got Widowmaker a lot just because I like to snipe. Zenyatta, is that how you say that guy's name?
Yep.
Yeah, Zenyatta, because I like his orbs. Those are probably and then Reinhardt. Those are probably the 3 that I spent the most time with.
Yeah, Zenyatta's hard. Did you appreciate? I guess if you played post-patch, he's a lot more survivable now. But
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was very good with Zenyatta, but he's a robot, soft spot in my heart. So
he throws orbs.
Right. I just like this style. The hard part is keeping, like, as long as you can keep track of the, like, damage boost orb, the disrupt orb, that's what you need to do for him. And then he's okay.
Right.
Yeah. John, what about you?
When I first started playing, I tried to pick up Pharah, just because I played a lot of TF2 as Soldier and a lot of Quake. I was like, rockets, yeah, I like that. Turns out I'm terrible in Overwatch with rockets, so I end up playing the most Mercy, just because also in TF2 I really liked the medic, and Mercy is really good. And then Roadhog is the other character I play a lot. It's really satisfying to land a hook and just one-shot essentially half the cast of characters.
Yeah. Roadhog is just Pudge.
Yep.
He has
Pudge
got
is
a good
fun.
heal, too.
Yeah, I don't... So I play mostly Symmetra, Lucio, and Diva.
Symmetra's the light one, right?
She's the one with the turrets.
Yeah, I didn't really understand her.
Yeah, I'm not a great shot in PC first-person shooters, so I tend to pick characters. Lucio and Symmetra, their bullets are actual objects in the world. They travel instead of being hit scan weapons like Soldier 76. If you're pointing in the right direction, the bullet will always hit. So I would usually just kind of lane. Like, I'd pick a choke point that everyone had to go down, and I would just be firing in that choke point at all times, hoping that people would run into the bullets. And with Symmetra, that happens all the time, and you just get a lot of kills from, like, her big orb. You can charge it up and then shoot it, and it will go through all shields. So there'd be a stupid Reinhardt just holding their shield like, oh, I've got everyone covered, and then the ball goes through all of them, and I get a kill. And then her turrets are just excellent. If you stack 6 of them and they don't get taken out, like, you can hold down. You can hold down a capture point by yourself if people are dumb about the turrets.
Yeah.
And the teleporter just when you die, the biggest thing in this game is always being alive, I found, or cutting down the time between respawning and getting to where you need to go, and having any of the characters that can modify that amount of time. It makes it so much easier to defend or attack. But I never played Symmetra on attack. I mostly just laid a teleporter, set up 6 turrets, made sure there were always 6 turrets up, and then I won like 80% of my games just by doing that with Symmetra.
That teleporter is really, really good.
Yeah. And Lucio, he's usually my offense character, Lucio or Diva, and that depends on whether we have a healer or a tank, because no one frickin' picks healers or tanks other than Roadhog, I found. Sometimes you get a Mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I couldn't. There were 2 characters I just completely wrote off from the very beginning. Lucio and Reaper. Because I just looked at him and I was like, these guys are tools. I don't want to be a part of this. So
I wrote off Reaper for the same reason. I
Yeah.
play Lucio because he has kind of an AoE heal around him just by being alive in your general vicinity. You're helping your whole team.
It's beats. His AoE is sick beats, and I can't support that.
Did you play him at all? Do you know how his abilities work?
Yeah, I know how his abilities
You
work.
crossfade between
Yeah, I know.
speeding everyone up.
That's
Yeah.
pretty great.
These aren't selling points.
And
These
then
are
he-
character flaws.
He drops the beat and it gives everyone shields. It's pretty great.
I wouldn't support it.
And
Rollerblades that he rides up walls.
he can ride up walls, but not only can he ride along walls, if you just keep hitting jump, he can go up walls.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty sick. Like a DJ.
Like, that famous DJ wall climb.
DJ Wall Climb is my new DJ name. No one else can have it. You heard it here first. So, and then I also played Bastion occasionally because if you're playing against people who don't know what they're doing, Bastion just wins the game all by himself.
Yeah, he just eats.
Yep.
Bastion needs to eat.
Feed the beast when he's hungry.
Yeah, so who here plays a lot of PC first-person shooters? John, I think you probably
I play a
most.
lot. I just play a lot of like online multiplayer, just in general. A lot.
So where do you find this game stacks up? Because for me, I don't play PC FPSs very much.
I don't know. It's pretty good. As far as it's very modern, I guess. It has a lot of like Dota and League are like super popular now, so it incorporates a ton of that into the FPS and TF2 formula. Like this game is like on the surface, it's like a TF2 clone, but there's so many things, not even just giving the characters different abilities, having a lot of characters, just like the design and how you play these maps. It essentially is Dota.
Except you can't really level up, though the ults are definitely game swingers, every single one of them.
Right, the matches are just too fast for that like per match RPG experience. But as far as like lanes and roles and that type of stuff, and like how you defended choke points,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's very much like those games.
Yeah, and I found for me, the serving size with this game kind of made it stand out versus something like a Dota. Even though it scratches some of those same itches, by being 5 minutes per match usually, or like 7 minutes per match, it was a lot more tolerable. And so even though you'd have matches where, in quick play, I'd have multiple matches where we'd be on attack and we'd have 3 snipers. And you almost can't win when your team is composed that way on offense, because you have 3 characters who are never going to be near the payload and who are never going to be advancing your goals. They're just trying to get kills when the game is not about kills. But since it's 5 minutes long, we're probably going to lose, but they're not wasting a half hour of my time or an hour of my time, which made me stick with this game a little bit. Oddly enough, like Dota, I can't play more than 1 or 2 games in a sitting just because it's too draining and you get too frustrated when stuff goes bad. This game, I ended up playing a lot longer sittings just by accident because you get on a roll and you're generally not getting you don't get as many jerks in concentrate. You don't get forced next to the jerks for quite so long, I should say.
Yeah, it is. The match length, I think, is a strong design feature. I mean, I share all your sort of same sentiments of Dota, just taken to so much exponentially higher powers. I hate it, everything about it. I hope it burns in hell for the rest of its life. But yeah, the match length here was well designed. You know, at certain points, I found the pace perhaps a little bit too frenetic. But I mean, again, that might be. I'm not a huge PC FPS guy either. I've played my fair share of Xbox ones. But yeah, I think the match length is good for a game like this where, you know, you're hot swapping characters. A lot of it depends on team composition. You know, you're not wasting your day if you don't get a good five-some.
Yeah. And I found that because the game is 100% objective focused versus kill focused, it allows for a wider range of experiences and a wider range of just character designs. There are some characters that would make no sense if your goal is to rack up 50 kills as faster than the other team. But when your job is to get to a thing and stand on it, or keep people from standing on things, because I mean the payload is it's like a moving capture the flag almost.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's actual King of the Hill. And is there any other mode that I'm forgetting? There's King of the Hill.
There's two different capture modes, aren't there? Yeah.
There's a
King of the Hill, and then there's Defend, basically.
Yep. And then there's payload games, and those are the 3 game types.
And there's a mix between the capture and the payload as well.
Yeah, there are sometimes where you have to do an initial capture, and then there's a payload.
Right.
But
speaking. Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, elaborating. Sort of speaking of that, you know, from at least the small number of promotional materials I've read, Blizzard seems to really sort of up this objective-based combat. Like, this is sort of a reaction against purely sort of deathmatch games. But I find that that's undermined by a lot of the things the game itself chooses to promote in gameplay. So by highlighting multi-kills, by highlighting kill streaks, by sort of presenting that, you know, for the most part, it's going to be really tough to impossible to get player of the game if you are a healer. You know, as far as I'm concerned, anytime you introduce sort of kill-to-death ratio, it's going to become the most important statistic in a shooter. So I think there might be a disconnect between some of the rhetoric here and the way the game actually plays or the things it highlights.
I agree with that a whole lot.
I kind of disagree with that a little bit.
Go ahead then.
Lay it on.
So the play of the game is, I guess, meant to highlight a play that turned the game around. And healing, well, that will win a game. Like, being a good healer, you won't usually, like, turn some, like, key moment. The plays of the game's going to people who get a ton of kills. Just getting kills, it means a lot in this game that is all about objectives, because, as Gino was saying earlier, uptime is really important. And when you kill somebody, that's like 20 seconds until they're back in the battle. So when somebody gets like a triple kill, that's your team has like a free like full minute or something to like kind of regroup and hold a line, and kill. While they're not like get 50 kills and win, getting kills is very important in this game.
Yeah, I would say it's super important. The only thing is there are defensive plays that are tide turning. Like, for example, Mercy, a huge revive that gets like 3 or 4 characters. All of a sudden, 3 or 4 characters that needed to wait to respawn are not waiting anymore, and they're back in the game. And that can swing the game just as much. And it doesn't seem like the game's highlight system necessarily picks up on that quite as much as offensive characters getting a big multi-kill. And go ahead.
I think it just doesn't happen that often. Like, playing a lot of Mercy, it is really hard to get 3 reses. Like, getting 2 people you can get, but getting 3, that's pretty difficult to do. It doesn't happen very often. Whereas some ultimates, it's just like, well, I caught you. Your whole team is dead.
Yeah, and so first an anecdote. I was playing ranked just to see what my competitive rank would be. And we had a Mercy who got a full 4 revive. It swung the game entirely, and the play of the game went to a McCree who used Deadeye or High Noon, whatever that is,
yeah.
And then he just got 2 kills, and that was it. And it was just like the mercy play was what swung the game. Everyone knew it, and they called out play the game as soon as it happened. But the game's algorithm said the play of the game was this double kill. That is just a free double kill.
The algorithm is off.
Exactly.
I'll give you that, but like highlighting kills is important.
Yeah, it's just it can be frustrating when you play mainly support characters who you might be getting like 30 kills, but they're coming intermittently, or you're helping out with 30 kills, but they're not impressive specifically. And then you see a Torbjorn who's just hiding behind like a wall and then getting 5 kills because his turret he hit Q and then his turret gets everyone.
But I just want to tease out sort of the implications of what we're talking about here, right? Like we're basically saying, all right, kills are still sort of the main feature of the game, right? Like the objective based gameplay is just a cosmetic overlay over what is basically you kill people, you win. And I think Blizzard sort of this might be unfair to sort of put it all on Blizzard, but I think the game's trying to position itself against that, while at the same time it's still shooting people to win.
I think that where you get that slight differentiation is in support characters and characters with odd combinations of abilities, because if it was just shoot to win, a team of 5 Soldier 76s would be just fine and probably roll people pretty good because they have probably one of the best operational ranges. Like they can shoot at mid-range, they can heal themselves, their ult is like that character's ult is very strong. If characters are on the screen, you shoot them by just holding down the button, and you reload faster too. And his rockets can do AoE damage. So he's basically a character that can do absolutely everything. But there are these slight tweaks to the gameplay because it is objective-based to where there are different character types that are possible. Like, for example, a character like Symmetra or a character like Torbjorn don't necessarily make a lot of sense if all you're doing is trying to kill, because people are not funneling towards a single place to get mowed down by your turrets. If it was a straight deathmatch style of game, you would characters like Tracer and Reaper would be much more powerful because you'd get caught out all the time. There's no good reason to roll as a crew necessarily if there's not this impetus. You have to go to this single point or you have to be on this thing. But because of that, you can get characters like Zenyatta, who only makes sense if your enemy is coming from a single direction in front of you. Because if anyone gets behind you, Zenyatta's just toast. But because they've set up this structure where there are clearly directions where your opposing force is coming from, and they are going towards this single object, you can do all sorts of different designs around that. Like Reinhardt, again, doesn't make any sense if characters are running all over the place. He only makes sense in blocking from a single direction.
I guess
Right. Reinhardt's terrible at getting kills. He holds up a shield and does nothing, but he's really good despite that.
I think part of my dissatisfaction, I guess, here's what I'm thinking. Gino, what was the game, you were playing this a while ago with the squids and you paint stuff?
Splatoon.
So in that, like in a game like that, where I think it's again a reaction to sort of this classic deathmatch template. And again, I'm not an expert on this, so Gino, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm building on a flawed premise here. But it seems like in that one, the killing is more incidental to the overall goal of just painting things. Whereas in this game, the killing is sort of central to the achievement of any sort of objective.
I agree. I actually prefer Splatoon to Overwatch for that reason, because it is possible to play completely passive in Splatoon if you are good at moving around and laying fucking paint. Stop shooting each other, lay paint. If you're good at that, then you can actually swing a game without killing a single other squid kid. You can win the game by similarly just keeping opponents off the map by killing them. There's a pretty long respawn time in that game as well. But it is possible to have 1 or 2 or 3 characters who are just running around laying paint. And then there are entire gun types that don't lay paint particularly well. And so you can just outpaint the other team. Whereas in Overwatch, at the end of the day, you're going to need to kill the other team at some point. You can't just keep them off. No matter how many maze you have, you can't just keep putting down ice walls until they give up.
Well, despite that, if you don't have a Mercy or Lucio,
You
you're
will lose.
in trouble.
True. Fair
You
point.
will almost always lose. The only thing that I've had Symmetra sometimes with shields, you can kind of get around that if your team's particularly good, and maybe if you have a Soldier 76. So that was my main problem. Is I've played Splatoon, and I just find the weapons there and the character, the kind of archetypes that come out of the different clothes and stuff like that to be a little bit more interesting, personally, because I like laying paint. I don't like shooting people quite as much.
You're an artist.
Yes. I'm an artist, and I want to wear, like, you know, a sweet hat and headphones and stuff. Yeah, so that's my main stuff on the competitive. And also, there's kind of the esportsy element of getting the play of the game and getting MVP and those particular accolades that I think might slightly misguide players, at least in my experience. In Quick Match, maybe this is just because it's in the summer and kids are home from school, but I find during the day I tend to pair with a lot of players who think that the game is about killing exclusively, and they will just pick 4 offense characters with no synergies necessarily at all, and they will just kind of run off and do their own thing, or they'll pick 3 snipers or 4 snipers and just run off and do their own thing, and then by the end of the game they'll be like, look at my KD though. And I'm like, no, nope. But they get a gold medal for eliminations, or they get a gold medal for deaths. But the game was completely one-sided. The other team won because killing is not everything.
But that's sort of the intro point I was making with the stats. Like, if they decided, all right, we're just not going to track kill to death ratio, that's pretty much heads that off from the very beginning.
Or if you just make sure that when you're tracking that, you don't give... So this kind of ties into the game's economy, the loot system. When you get certain gold medals, you get additional points for leveling up. Because it's a game post Call of Duty 4, so of course there has to be a leveling system to unlock stuff. And so in this game, you are leveling up, and they married the leveling system to a nefarious lottery system to just get you even more. So you level faster if you get more kills, if you get a good time on the objective, if you heal really well and you're a healer. So you get more points for leveling if you do those things, even though those things are not necessarily completely aligned with winning.
Are you sure that's true? I think it's just if you have gotten a gold medal, you get slightly more, and it is a negligible amount.
Yes, you get. I think for gold medals, you definitely get a slight boost, and it is slight, but it is there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. True.
So, if someone was playing the game and didn't realize that what they're doing is completely wrong, the economy is saying, "Hey, you're gold medals," and then they're like, "I didn't screw up. I got gold medals. Come on, everyone else, get on my level. Look at how many gold medals I have. What was your objective time? 0 seconds. What do you mean? Look at my KD."
Personal anecdote, I've never seen one person brag about KD or trash talk someone for it.
Yeah, I've not seen trash talking for KD specifically. Yeah. I've seen trash talking for character picks. I've seen people cursing up and down for healing or not healing. I've seen it for people disconnecting, which is fair. But not that. It is not the same belligerence that you get in other games.
Right. It's definitely less. Whenever someone starts getting mad, in this game probably more than any other online game I've played, the rest of the people in the match, like on their team, off their team, kind of all gang up on the mad person that started it. It's nice to see that the community at large has kind of turned on trash talking being acceptable.
Yeah, and I think it's partially because it's very easy to leave and find another game.
Right.
It's not like you're finding a server and then this is the server you play on and now you're trapped in here with the jerks.
I think it's also a function of, and this is going to sound a little dismissive, but I don't want it to be, but it's also a function of sort of the bubblegum aesthetic. Like, this isn't like Gears of War, Call of Duty or something where everything's gritty, everything's grimy. You know, you have a Korean pro gamer piloting a battle mech and a, you know, ray gun shooting scientist. Yeah, you know, you have an anthropomorphic ape. Like, this isn't a very serious game, and I think that's also a good decision to help bring in sort of a lighter tone like that.
Except for Reaper, who's the most
Oh,
serious.
God, fucking Reaper. What a clown.
One of the other things that helps is having the quick play and having the ranked. The people who really care about winning and, like, what are you doing, picking that character, we're going to lose, they have a place to play, and everyone who just wants to have fun has a place to play.
Yeah, at the same time, there shouldn't be 3 snipers even in quick play. Don't pick 3 snipers. Diversify. If you're gonna pick a sniper, pick Ana. We don't need 3 Hanzos. Yeah, so I guess that bubblegum aesthetic definitely helps. Just a quick second, just the next time I see Reaper get a play of the game for falling off a ledge while hitting Q, I'm just gonna knock something over.
Are you gonna die?
I just hate every time it's like play of the game Reaper. I wonder if he teleported into the crowd, or if he jumped from a ledge into the crowd, or if he ghosted into the crowd. Which one is it? Oh wow, he did it. So I guess we talked a little bit about the economy stuff. What did you guys think of kind of the leveling system and unlocking cosmetics as kind of the reward?
I have strong feelings about this, and it's complete garbage.
Tell us why.
Just adding these elements to the game. I guess Call of Duty 4 is, you can kind of blame it. Adding the leveling, it's like a mental kind of addiction thing of getting people to keep on going. Overwatch did not have this until about like 2 months before launch. Playing in the beta, there was no cosmetics, nothing. And people like complained that like, why would I keep playing? Like, I'm not getting anything. Why would I play? Oh my god, it makes me tear my hair out.
Wait, so the game did not have it?
Yeah.
And then
like,
people were upset?
It was like 2 or 3 months before launch, and they had their beta going for a long time. They did like a beta weekend. I played during that weekend, and then afterwards people were like, yeah, the game's really good. Like, it feels really good, but there's no progression. Like, there has to be a progression.
I don't want to say. Call of Duty 4, I think, did a really good job with their progression. I mean, Prestige mode was dumb because it's like, hey, you've done this once, do it 10 more times to get like an icon next to you. But the thing that they did well was they introduced sort of variety into the gameplay, right? Which didn't really make you better; it just gave you more options. Whereas Overwatch is just sort of it's purely aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think that's better.
You think that's better?
Despite that, cosmetics in general have kind of gotten out of hand. Overwatch follows the League of Legends model of, let's have a beach party, or things that make no sense for the character. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't mind that it was cosmetics. I do mind that this treadmill's there at all. I just find it kind of a deeply problematic design to have people put on a treadmill of addiction. Like,
yeah.
Hey, you should really keep playing this game. Don't put it down because you get extra points for first win of the day. You should probably play it every day so you keep at least once a day. Come on, right. You get those sweet points.
The worst part is that people expect that, and that like, because other games do it and they're doing the addiction thing, like, even if you like a game more, you're going to stop playing it if you're not getting anything out of it. And I don't know, it bugs me that so many games are incorporating those types of mechanics into it where they're not necessary at all.
Do you think Call of Duty 4 is the patient zero of this phenomenon? Or do you think we could trace it more to games like Candy Crush, where like addiction is the whole business model? So now you can see, based on the success of casual games, we're now porting those sorts of ideas into more AAA titles.
I mean, if you want to get straight up to the origins of it, it's role-playing games, it's Final Fantasy games, it's games where you're just getting experience for killing things, and so you get higher levels and you get better. And then those got ported to Call of Duty. They added a leveling system, a la a role-playing game.
Sorry. Is there a level of I should know the answer to this, but is there a level of randomness in Overwatch?
In terms of what you get?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are random lots.
Yeah, that's where we're seeing the casual gameplay coming in. It's that randomness. Because in Call of Duty, you know what you get and you know what you get at when.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's that
boxes,
randomness. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the random lottery boxes are designed, like you said, to extract money from people because you can buy them.
TF2 crates were, I think, maybe like the first non like free to play kind of microtransaction, really heavy game to do it.
And it bled into games like Mass Effect 3. It bled into games like Overwatch. Dota is rife with that stuff. I don't think League does that. League is character purchases instead of cosmetic purchases, right?
It's not blind boxes. Yeah, there are cosmetic purchases, but you do have to also purchase the characters.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of games are starting to go in this direction, and I find it pretty problematic. I find it extra problematic that in this game you can open duplicate items. I don't know if you've had that happen, but if you get a level, you can get the same spray again, and then it gives you like 5 overbucks.
It gives you like 20% of
Oh.
whatever it was worth. It's
Yeah.
not a lot.
And so I had a box where I got 2 duplicate sprays, and they got me 10 overbucks, which means I can't even buy anything with that.
No, man, you just have it. So then you got to get more to use it. It's
No.
genius in its nefariousness.
No, it's not great.
I understand why these things are in games. Games are getting more expensive to make, and the audience is growing, but they're getting way more expensive to make, and they kind of need to make more money. I have a problem when, like in Overwatch, there's no way to turn it off. Like, if I just want the base skins that they obviously spent way more time designing their look and like a cohesive kind of like look to all of them, there's no way to turn it off, so I don't have to see the stuff that's in there to take money out of people's pockets.
Yeah, there are definitely some character. I like the character colors more than I like some of the alternate skins.
Yeah.
And sometimes just knowing that the alternate skins exist, and as soon as I see a character in them, I'm like, oh wow, you spent a lot of money, or you've played a lot of this game.
What do you think the economics would be of a microtransaction to give you the option to turn off microtransactions would be?
I don't know what that would
I
cost.
wonder if the end it would be lucrative.
I might actually buy that.
Best value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think in the latest update they added the ability to turn off chat.
Completely.
Yeah, and if that is the case, I am all for that.
Yeah, that's where Blizzard seems to be going with all their games. Have chat off by default.
Yeah, just because I see 4 stars instead of the word, I know what you're saying to me. It's not better. I mean, it's slightly better, I guess. There are several different curse words you could have used.
Yeah, and then it becomes a puzzle. Like, I wonder which one they picked.
Yeah. Yeah, so the blind box is not my big thing. Luckily, I got my Diva skin early on through, like, sheer luck. I'm like, that's the one I like the most. Perfect.
Yeah.
So, with all of that stuff discussed, Pete, you wanted to talk a little bit about the diversity of the characters?
I did want to talk a little bit about the diversity of the characters. So far be it from me to argue against diversity in any capacity. I think it's good, right? I think it's a move in the right direction that we have this diverse cast of characters. It's not just a series of grizzled white men that we're tossing into combat. But I can't help but feel a little cynical about the whole thing. As if, like, this... Like, you know when Iron Man 3 added scenes in China to, like, appeal to a Chinese movie-going audience? I feel like it's kind of like that. And so now I'm left with these questions like, am I just cynical? Is the games industry cynical? And then just more largely, does it matter? Like, if we get more diversity of characters through just economic cynicism, that's better, right?
I guess I can add in this game. I believe some of the earlier designs, there was not a diversity of body types or ethnicities quite so much, and people actively said, hey, you should have that.
Really?
And the character design started changing.
I would think the opposite, because wasn't this... I mean, we've never heard confirmation, but it's pretty much assumed that this game came out of Blizzard's Titan project, and it was going to be an MMO, and that MMO was going to be like a worldwide, like a worldwide thing. So I would think the diversity kind of came out of that, of just, we have these capital cities, and they're all over the world. They obviously have different people in them.
I just remember early on reading threads of people saying, hey, why are all of the characters, skinny or short or tall or really muscly? And then as they kept introducing more and more characters, like I think the first characters that came out were like Widowmaker and Tracer and like some of those baseline characters.
That first trailer had like Zenyatta, Mercy. Yeah, it didn't have many of the more diverse ones, I guess.
Yeah, like Zarya, Roadhog, what's his name? Firehair. With the bombs. Junkrat. Like, having a character with one leg is pretty... Like, that's a type of diversity that you almost never see in games, period. Like, a character who is handicapped in that way. So I guess I liked it for the most part, and like you said, even if it came from kind of a crass, cynical area, is it necessarily bad?
Did you guys feel that same sort of cynicism about it that I did? Is this a personal failing of mine?
My cynicism came from the fact that the character types, like the actual backgrounds, some of them felt kind of pandering, but not that they were from other countries. Like Diva being the South Korean character who is also a pro StarCraft player, that felt pandering to a very specific audience.
That one was probably the most pandering.
That one definitely annoyed me.
Reaper being a grimdark fan, like sort of dude with he's got a spray that's just the devil horns. Yeah. That felt kind of pandering to me.
I mean, Blizzard's been kind of doing this for like over a decade. Their games have always had kind of diverse casts, but they've always been very like stereotypical and not great characters.
Like Street Fighter, they've got this boilerplate sort of thing going on, and that's kind of who they are. Like I liked Lucio also. He's got the hippity hop. He looks like Dead Mouse.
He's super pandery.
Yep.
Almost have you guys ever played Diablo 3? Have you played The Witch Doctor? I've heard he makes some noises that I don't know how it got past him. And I heard stories that, like, in the recording sessions, like, the technicians and the voice actors were like, can we not do these lines? These are really bad. And they had to, like, tone it down. Yeah, Blizzard has not been great.
Yeah, and I guess the diversity is a good way to segue. What did you guys think of the foreign languages in the game? Like, some characters actually do speak in their native tongues, which I thought was a cool move.
I mean, it makes it better, as far as I'm concerned. Like, this sort of attention to detail makes it seem like it wasn't just sort of like, oh, let's toss in like the bare minimum we need in this sort of economic calculus that I'm seeing unfolding here. So, the more effort you put in, the more, and again, as an academic, I have huge problems with this word to begin with, but the more authenticity you put in something, the better off you are.
They might feel authentic, but I think I've heard reports from people who speak those languages that they're not really making that much sense. Like,
I'm just assuming, like oh, that sounds
foreign. And Genji's ult, are kind of like non-word words.
Yeah, I guess the thing that confused me a little bit was, so in Overwatch, when you're using an ultimate, the call out is different depending on whether it's an ally or an enemy. just to let you know, oh, it's a teammate who's letting twin dragons fly through the air, or it's an enemy. But I noticed that for the characters that speak other languages, the ult is generally speaking in the foreign language when they are your opponent, but they are in English when they are on your team, which I thought was a little odd.
Yeah, I never noticed that, but that's really interesting that's what it is.
Like Genji says, "The dragon becomes me" when he's on your team, and he says something I think in Japanese when he goes all sword crazy. Hanzo, I think it's something in English, something like "Go dragons" or "Clear the area" or something, and then in Japanese it's "Ryuga Wagateki Okurao" or whatever. Mercy in English, it's "Heroes Never Die," and then in I don't know what language she speaks. Is it Swedish?
I think it's Swedish.
She says Hayden Stabnik, or I think that's what she says.
That sounds phonetically right.
Yeah, I think Mei is freeze for her Blizzard, and then she says something in Chinese when she freezes on the other team. It's on the nose.
Is there a gameplay story we could tell about this? Like, clearly they need to differentiate it somehow. Would there be any reason to not just have two phrases in whatever their native language might be?
I think it's just not from a story reason, but just from a a usability perspective. It probably makes more sense to have a two very different phrases for whether they're on your team or not. And having it be in a different language is a pretty good way to do that.
Yeah.
Like Reaper, when he's using his ult on your team, is clearing the area. When he's on the other team, it's die, die, die. So a lot of the ults, they are definitely more passive. Like I think Zarya is like grouping them up or something when she uses her.
It's a gravity bomb.
It's a gravity bomb, but it's like...
you mean the phrase.
Yeah, the phrase is like, go get him, or something like that. And then when she uses it, she speaks Russian, which is pretty severely different. I think Roadhog laughs to himself when he uses his ult as an enemy. I've never been Roadhog, so I don't know what he says when you use it. Going whole hog? Is that what he says?
Maybe.
That sounds reasonable, sure.
I think it's interesting that the teammate versions are the ones that have like in English and in other language. The teammate ones are the English ones, and the other ones are not. And then, like, we don't know what they're saying, but if you take like Reaper, where he speaks English in both, of the teammate one is like a friendly, like, let's do it, and the other one is like aggressive. The ones in other languages don't sound that aggressive, but somehow they're enemies because they're in another language.
Yeah, the presumption is just they're inherently more aggressive because they're not speaking English.
I guess, and that was something that it really struck me, just because I thought it was so on the nose.
Yeah.
And it seemed odd to me also that some characters, like almost every character in this game, is supposed to come from another country other than the U.S. Like Soldier 76, McCree, and Tracer's from England.
Yeah.
But then I believe Reaper's from Mexico.
Reaper's from somewhere?
Are you sure? I think he's just like...
I think he's just like a demon from hell.
No, he used to be like... The story is dumb, but he used to be Overwatch, and I don't know, something happened, and he decided to become a bad guy. Soldier and him were best friends, I think. And then now they're best enemies.
Oh no.
But like if you pre-ordered it or whatever, you got the Origins edition, and they have like skins from back when Overwatch was a thing. Reaper's skin is just like, I don't know, just a normal dude.
Just a guy.
I don't think he's from Mexico.
I thought he had an ethnicity. Like other than like not just North American.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mei's from China. Torbjorn is Swedish.
Yeah.
Widowmaker, I think, is French. Diva is South Korean. Reinhardt is German.
Symmetra is Egyptian.
She's Indian.
Indian.
Farah
Farah
is
is-
Egyptian.
Farah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. Excuse me.
Winston's a gorilla. Yeah, Lucio's from Rio de Janeiro.
Yep, that one's pretty clear.
Yeah, that one. I don't know why he doesn't speak Portuguese
Yeah.
in any of his lines. I don't know why Symmetra doesn't speak any of the Indian languages in any of her moves.
But she
all about
does
the
have like a Kali outfit, so you
She
can make
does.
sure you know she's Indian.
Well, she
You
also
have to
uses
know.
the power of Indian dance to create her constructs.
Yep. Yeah, it's a little Street Fighter-y.
Yeah, it's like it's a nod to diversity, but like, well, let's not go too far on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
The best thing I can say about that is even the normal white dude characters, like they're not real characters either.
Yeah,
no
like-
one's a real character. Everyone's
No.
Kree's just a
evil
cow.
and not being good.
McCree's a cowboy
Yeah.
with a robot arm. Soldier 76 is just old. He's an old man. He's a grumpy old man, which I enjoy him. Just back in my day, we'd have this payload delivered already.
Yeah.
Reinhardt's an old German dude who every time you slam into a wall with his boost, he's just so sad. Ugh. So was there anything else anyone wanted to hit on with Overwatch?
Trying to think.
Playing alone compared to playing with people you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
That's a
point.
good call. I don't know how I feel about playing alone.
Yep.
It's a lot better than Dota. I'll
You
say
don't
that
like playing
much.
with yourself, Gino?
No.
No.
No,
Well,
it's
I
a
would-
lot better than Dota.
I would
that
say
way.
I've spent
Sharp
About-
stick in the eye is better than Dota.
I've spent only about 20% of my time playing by myself, just because I've played a lot of these games and I know, they're not as fun playing by yourself. But I think Blizzard has actually made playing by yourself much more enjoyable compared to other games. Just like
Mhm.
the way they do chat and they force you to be friendly, pretty much.
Yeah. I spent about 90% of my time playing without friends, and I think some of the UI things they do in terms of team composition, like giving you that little, hey,
Yeah.
your team doesn't have any healers,
hmm
and it's like yellow for warnings, red for you really need to frickin' have a healer, or like you really need to have a tank. Those tooltips, I think, guide people into playing constructive teams, in a way that like Dota does not, and other games. I think it raises the bar just doing that stuff pre-game. So if you're going in and you've made a bad team, you at least know that you're doing something outside of what the game expects.
And like with the alt callouts and just a lot of callouts they do, they take a lot of like what you would be communicating with your friends and put it into the game, so you don't have to talk to the other people, but you know what they're doing. And that's great because talking with random people on the internet is always a terrible experience.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a salient point. Because, I mean, I compared this game to Left 4 Dead, which is another
Yep.
very sort of teamwork-based game. And that's one where those sort of communicatory functions were all pretty much placed on the player. I mean, you end up with people who just don't talk, don't have mics, whatever it might be. And I think it's a salient point that this one really, it took some of the more basic functions out of the player's hands, which I think is important.
Yeah, and just by having ults kind of pop around the same time, generally speaking, teamwork is pretty easy to pull off without any planning. Like, if someone throws an ult out, you should probably throw yours out at the same time if it's not going to kill them. Like, it's a game where you're constantly accruing resources. Like, the cooldowns are all pretty short. You have infinite ammunition. Your ult starts charging as soon as you use it. So you're encouraged to use abilities liberally. And so the chances of things lining up are pretty strong. Like, there are only a few characters where if you use an ability at the wrong time, you're really, really in a bad way. Like Zarya. If you use her barriers at the wrong time, it's like a 10-second cooldown, and that's the thing that she does, for the most part, is save people from damage. I think that that basic UI stuff helps so much. Like, even the color coordination for enemy life bars and your life bars, the outlining of enemies that are kind of in your field of view. So, like, if you see a turret, like the edge of a Symmetra turret, that is red.
Mm-hmm.
And if your teammates can see things, even, you get, like, a red outline that helps you see enemies as well. And so that stuff allows you to just have a lot of visual information without ever uttering a word or hitting a button. And they do have a lot of useful hotkeys. Like, my ult is blank % charged. Group up with me. I need healing. That way you don't even need a microphone to say what you need to say.
Did you guys find yourself sort of hot swapping characters in match too often? Like, that was another thing I read Blizzard talking about. Like, when that sort of Bastion stuff jumped off at the very beginning when the beta first dropped, and everybody was like, Bastion's overpowered. I saw Blizzard talking a lot about sort of that hot swapping. Like, if Bastion sets up, maybe you got to come in with a Genji or something, change up your play style. But I didn't find myself making those jumps too often after the game started.
I did pretty frequently, just because Symmetra, once you're not holding down a singular point anymore, and if there's not a good choke point, Symmetra is just not a great choice. Like, in payload matchups, if the payload's really moving, you're never going to stop them with Symmetra by yourself. But a Bastion, if you set up in the right place, you might be able to hold off until your teammates come. So I would generally switch to, like, Bastion or Diva or something to try and really start helping again.
Right, with Symmetra, she's not really effective defending the final point because the teleporter doesn't bring people far. That's the strongest part of her. I don't find myself swapping that much. I think the way the ultimates work to prevent you from swapping. Like, if somebody has a Bastion, you might want to swap to get a counter pick, but if you've kind of built your team right, your ultimates will be charging up, and if you want to pick, like, a counter pick, like, oh, I hate that character, I gotta switch, you're giving up some ultimate charge. And if you build your team right, you don't really need to swap that much, and you can put a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, and that, I found that I only ever swapped if I had just used an ultimate for the most part.
Right.
Because that way there's no penalty for switching. Whereas if I'm even 50% of the way, like, the number of ults you get off in a game can decide a game as much as anything else. Like, this is a game that I feel is really balanced around ultimates and those enabling or preventing pushes. Like, every single ult is game-changing if used even half properly. Like I said about play the game Reaper stuff, where it's just fall from a ledge onto any sort of point and you probably wipe their team or get at least 3 or 4 kills. Almost every character has an ult that does something similar. His is just the easiest that I've seen. Soldier 76, as soon as you pop it, you'll probably get 2 or 3 kills by accident. Zarya, if any of your teammates have a useful ult or an AoE attack, you'll probably rack up 3 or 4 kill assists that way. And so I found it, at least for modes like capture the flag sort of stuff, I found it a little problematic that this game's ultimates are so powerful, and because there's an overtime mechanic where if you're anywhere near the point, if anyone's contesting, you can't win. The game won't end. Which means that the appropriate thing to do sometimes is just to have all 5 of your characters hang back until all of your ults are charged, and then just go into the point, spam all of your ults, hope that it wipes out the team, and then the downtime is such that you'll just win the game. They won't be able to respawn fast enough to contest again. And that happened to me multiple times where, where'd the other team go? We're, like, really close to winning. We only have to hold for, like, a couple more. Oh, God.
Fiery death just rains down.
Fiery death from everywhere. Did that happen to you guys as well?
Or that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just single ults can do so much.
Truth.
To swing the game.
Truth.
That it really, before they fixed or they buffed Diva, it made playing Diva really annoying because her ult does as much of a job clearing the area as someone like Reaper, except she doesn't kill them.
No,
for
they
the
just
most
run
part.
away.
They run away.
Right.
And her ult used to take 4 seconds to explode, and then you would die if you didn't do a good job of, like, you know, escaping. And so it was just garbage. There were other characters who played very similarly, who maybe had a little bit less health, but their ults were just so much more transformative that I just felt like I was doing my team a disservice every time I picked D.Va. Why am I not just Reaper? Because
he sucks. Because he's so
sucks
dumb.
much. Ugh. So is there anything else you guys want to call out about Overwatch? I found it, overall, I enjoyed the game.
Yeah, it's solid. You know,
It's
it's
just that
worthwhile.
Splatoon exists. My biggest problem with Overwatch is that Splatoon exists.
Splatoon is pretty great. Overwatch is, I don't know, Overwatch is pretty comparable. I think it appeals to a wider audience than Splatoon.
That's probably true.
And that makes me so sad.
Yeah.
That's more of a flaw of our society than it is a flaw with Splatoon.
We don't
Nobody
appreciate
owns a Wii
squids
U.
enough.
We don't appreciate squids. We don't appreciate puns enough, or ridiculous Japanese fashion trends. None of this. Are you guys going to keep playing this game, you think? Now that the podcast is over?
Yeah, I mean, look, well, because it's like that 5-minute match time. Like, whatever, I got a half hour to kill. Let's toss it up. But I don't think it's going to be in like heavy rotation.
Yeah, for me, I have like a group of friends I play a lot of online games with, and like this is the game right now. Like nothing else has come out comparable since, so probably going to be playing it for a while.
Yeah, I think I'm going to uninstall it. I think it's going to take up... It takes up a lot of time by accident,
Yeah.
and I kind of feel like I should remove it from my life. Also, I went to the trouble of... I played competitive mode just to see what that was. And honestly, all those nice things I said about like 5-minute times and not that much time, competitive mode, you have to play both sides. So you do an
doubles up.
attack and then a defend. And all of a sudden, the change from 5 minutes per round to 10 to 15, all of a sudden, all of those things that I said, oh, if we have a bad game, you know, we have 4 snipers and we're just going to lose, but hey, whatever, 5 minutes I'll be with another group of people. When you're playing competitive and there's 15 minutes and someone's wasting your freaking time because they quit, or team composition is just completely unworkable, all of a sudden it starts feeling a lot worse. I don't know if there's like this inflection point at 10 or 15 minutes where all of a sudden the bullshit meter just, like the curve just becomes exponential instead of linear. But like 5 minutes, I don't mind if someone's fucking around. 15, it's like, oh, fuck.
Then it's over.
Yep. But I don't enjoy competitive. Like, I got level 58 competitive rank points. I don't know what the fuck that even is. And the fact that you need to get 300 competitive wins to get a golden gun for a character.
Ugh. No, just dumb bullshit unlockable.
Yep. That's just like, I can't. Did you find that you played with a lot of people who were like level 80 and 90?
Oh yeah, I played today, and someone had prestige twice and was 41.
What?
Yeah. Yep. People play a lot of this game. That's where those like golden weapons come in. A lot of people play games where they have one game and they will play that for like years straight and not play anything else. The gold weapons, that's for them.
Yeah, it's really dispiriting when you're playing, and I'm like level 20. I'm now 33 in terms of rank, you know, your leveling system. And it's just real dispiriting when you keep getting paired with like 80s and 90s and they have 5 times the hour count that you have. It's like, why am I paired with this person? They're a killer, very clearly.
He's a monster.
He just wants to eat.
He always hungry.
So I think that's all I have to say about Overwatch. It's a fun game overall.
Yeah, it is.
I understand why it's so popular right now,
Yeah.
but I can't anymore, I don't think. It was good to know that I'm like slightly above average if I'm playing Symmetra. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
and
man.
I think that's mostly because people are bad against Symmetra. They don't know what they're doing. So, Pete, it is your turn again.
Yeah. And Gino, I'm sorry to say I'm going to have to bite one of your suggestions. But after I'm not sorry to say, Gino, you got good taste. But after you mentioned Inside, I took a look at it, and I'm stoked. I'm pumped on it, and I think we're going to run with it.
Ooh.
All right, great. We are sticking with modern games.
Yep.
Once it loops back around to me again, I know what I'm picking. So
You guys
This is
have,
gonna be
will
a
have a
blast from the past.
lot to talk about with that game.
That's what I'm thinking. It looks a little bit
Good.
more story oriented, so we'll bounce back a little bit after Overwatch.
Yeah. It's
John, have you
Okay.
played it already?
Yeah, I would say it's more atmosphere oriented.
Just as
but
good.
You guys,
I like
you'll
atmosphere.
see. You'll see. It's pretty cool.
I breathe atmosphere. It's very important to me.
How many talking gorillas are inside?
Good question.
0.
0 talking gorillas? Fuck. Pick a new game.
Donkey Kong Country, I think, has the most
Woo!
possible talking gorillas.
One of my favorite games of all time.
There you
It's
go.
probably a good call on that.
Donkey Kong
Well-
64.
Thank you, listeners, for listening once again. If you want to get in touch with the show, go ahead at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have a whole bunch of chat sections, and then deeplistens@gmail.com. Deep. Yes. I think I said all of those right. No one would know if I was saying them wrong.
With our mountains and mountains of feedback.
That's true. How will I know?
Maybe that's what
How
we've
will I
just been
keep
saying
track?
them wrong for like a year straight. People have been trying to reach us.
It's just been nothing. Yep. Just a brick wall. Well, thank you, Pete.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Overwatch, solid game. It's fun if you want to play it.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to come on and do the podcast.
All right. And thank you, listeners. Till next time. Peace.